All right, we are now live and welcome to the Q3 2025 Town Hall. We are so excited to go over everything that we have prepared. And I really got to give credit to where it's due with our fine guests that are going to be joining me today and going into their specialized areas of how they help our clients, whether it be financial security, which we're going to talk about here in a moment, going into important conversations about healthcare and the right approaches to take to the actual services of at-home care and solutions. And then we then go into the big beautiful bill, which I'm excited to talk about that as well. That's a lot of moving parts there, right? And that's probably a reason why there's a lot of people that joined as well. Without further ado, I'm Jason Noble. I am the managing director and partner here at Prime Capital Financial, overseeing the Charleston operations. And we have other people that are going to be joining as well that are also partners. They're just coming in and as they wrap up other meetings. But let me go right into the agenda. We have Todd, who's going to be going over Carefull. Parker is going to be going over CareAlly, and Drew is going to be going into HomeRN. And as I was talking about this, look at this, 3.4 trillion added to our national debt. I remember at one point in my career, we used to talk about billions. Now it's trillions, go figure. All right. So let's have fun with this. Todd, I'm going to kick it off with you. You're the VP at Carefull, right? Wonderful work that you're doing. We actually did a pilot program, right, Todd? And we got the survey results back, and it was overwhelming that we need to roll this out to everybody. So that's a pretty exciting thing. So I know what you sent me your deck, so I'm going to go ahead and just turn it right over to you to get us started. And then Parker, you're right on deck, so be ready, okay?
Ready.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Jason, and hello to everybody joining in or watching the recording later. My name is Todd. I'm a member of the leadership team here at Carefull, primarily responsible for the go-to-market motion and working with folks like Jason. So yeah, just to frame it in, Carefull is very much a mission-driven company. In my 25 years in the fintech space, I've never sold a product that elicits emotions when you start talking about Carefull, because almost always there's someone in the room that has been impacted by this, either as a financial caretaker or assisting a loved one after they've been victimized in a scam. We all know it's a massive problem. What a lot of folks don't know is that there is a company called Carefull out there that solves for it in a very unique way. Do I have control of the slides, Jason, or is that you?
I'll drive the bus and move it over to the next slide.
Perfect. All right. So ultimately, through Jason and his organization, as a client, you are going to now be able to, or you will have the option to receive Carefull as a benefit. Carefull provides an array of protections on our platform that can potentially replace other things you may have today, such as, say, LifeLock, which you may spend upwards of $300 a year on. Because Jason cares enough to give you Carefull, that's actually included in our platform. So there's immediate savings, immediate benefits, literally in the first 60 seconds that you were to come and sign up for the service. If you want to hit the next slide real quick.
Yep.
And so when you think about the number of LifeLocks and lots of other players out there that perform bits and pieces perhaps of helping you better manage your financial life, keep you safe from fraudulent transactions, bad actors, scams, frauds, Carefull does all of that and much more, because we're able to look for very nuanced patterns in wallet behavior and things like that. We can catch on to nuanced things that even you may miss. One of them being charitable giving. I'll just give you two quick examples. One, during the election season last year, this was very common. People were getting a call. They would make $1,000, $100 contribution to the campaign of their choice. And then unbeknownst to them, that little grayed out box that was pre-checked said, make this a recurring donation. That $1,000 now turned into $12,000. And for folks that don't have a need to check their account very frequently, that can add up very quickly over time. That's something we're going to report on immediately and say, hey, did you know that $100 is going to turn into $1,200? We give an annual giving report. We're always looking for individual bits and pieces, charitable giving. Maybe you buy gold on a regular basis, but we're always looking for something that looks unusual to keep you safe. Another example would be providing a donation or giving a donation to a one-star charity. Again, you may not know that, but we're going to make you aware. You go ahead and hit the next slide, Jason. The gold actually is a really nice example of our next generation alerts. So we're now able to provide far more context. And in this case, like I mentioned earlier, let's say you've been, buying gold on a monthly or quarterly basis for the last decade, and perhaps a bad actor gets access, perhaps you're, man in the middle attack, somebody sends you a fraudulent pay link. We're going to catch that, and then we're going to explain to you why we're reporting on it. And in this case, we would say something to the effect of, hey, Todd, we know that you regularly buy gold at this amount, preset amount, or this range. This looks unusual because of these four things or these three things. It's not always going to be what you see on the screen, because we're leveraging our AI now to have much more context when you receive an alert that also is more beneficial to you so that you can act on it and have trust that it's accurate. Go ahead and hit the next slide real quick. We're really proud of a new release on our platform now called Scam Check. Think of that as your virtual wealth advisor, son-in-law, when you are concerned about a particular text or a phone call or an email, really any form of communication. You can now turn to Scam Check on our platform and just simply say, hey, I'm on the phone and this person says this. Should I continue to engage with this person? Maybe you have a text that's suspect. You can forward that text. You can forward that email, and then we will analyze that. You can go ahead and click the next screen again, Jason. This takes us through a quick flow. We're going to analyze context, syntax, whitelist phone numbers. Oh, go back one. Whitelist versus blacklist on phone numbers, bad actors, about 100 plus things that we're going to correlate on. And in this case, and this is, again, an example of how powerful our platform is, it started out with a USPS lost package email, right, or text. We know that that could branch out into any number of different scams. It could be lost package. It could be you're being investigated. We're going to try to take you to jail. It can also wind up with, oh, I found the package. I'm going to send it to you. And it's a token of someone's admiration. We know because of the context of that particular text, this looks like a romance scam. And we're also alerting your trusted contacts. We're bringing in, kind of the family to help turn this thing into a team sport to keep folks safe on our platform. You can hit the next slide real quick, Jason. We're also proud to announce Legacy Kit. So I'm sure most folks are familiar with some notion of a vault where you're able to keep important documents. We looked at that and said that the current paradigm is just really dated and can be completely reimagined. And so because we have visibility into these patterns, into your spend as part of the Carefull platform, we bring a high level of sophistication and automation to building what we call your legacy kit. So when you think about the myriad things that you would have to collect over time to help prepare for the designee who's ultimately going to be responsible for handling your estate and things like that, Legacy Kit makes it exceptionally easy compared to any other type of tool that you may have used in the past. Next slide.
I think that's a wonderful ad that you have there, Todd.
What's that?
I think it's a wonderful value add that you're Carefull is bringing to the table.
Yeah, it really is. We could have been content with status quo and said use our vault, and we looked at it and said no way, that we can do it a lot better. We also have a lot more coming. We got a huge announcement in 2 weeks about a new release that is not just an incremental feature. It's a completely new piece of our platform that adds that much more value to keeping you safe. But at a high level, just a snapshot here. Included in Carefull is the financial safety component, monitoring all parts of your financial life to keep you safe. Scam Check that I just mentioned, home defense with title monitoring, address fraud monitoring, $1 million of identity theft insurance. We can keep your passport safe. It's everything in one stop that you may have today that's scattered across 6, 7, 8 plus websites and logins and passwords that you have to remember, and you have to know which is which. If you get an email that may get missed in your inbox, all of that can now live on Carefull because you're a client of Jason and his firm.
I love the one-stop shop, looking at it from multiple different angles. And I've had people reach out just about the $1 million in identity insurance, along with that real human assistance. So wonderful work, Todd. And Todd's going to hang on as well when we go over to CareAlly. But what I would like everyone to do is below our videos, below the presentation, there's a Q&A section. Go into that Q&A and start submitting your questions, because we're going to have a Q&A, not just with Todd, but with Parker along with Drew as well. So, put it in, right, as we go through, because that's how we could address those questions as we go through the conversation. Now, Parker, I'm going to turn it over to you, brother, okay? I'm going to have you go over your agenda and go right into your presentation.
Awesome. Hey, Jason, thanks again for the opportunity today. And I'm Parker. I'm one of the co-founders of CareAlly. And today we're going to talk about supporting clients through moments that matter. We're going to spend the next few minutes today talking about something that affects us all, which is navigating the challenges of aging, whether that's for ourselves or our aging parents. And I know many of you today are either starting to think about your own future care needs, or you're watching your own parents face these decisions. And so today, what we're going to do, we're going to cover a number of practical insights so that you can feel more prepared and confident during these transitions. So on the agenda today, we're going to cover, kind of give you a quick introduction about CareAlly and how we help families. We're going to talk about senior living decisions, the different options available, and how to think about timing. We're also going to talk about how to approach these sometimes difficult conversations with aging parents. And finally, I'm going to share with you about our free resources and our personalized support that's available to you. Jason, let's go to the next slide, please. So CareAlly, we call ourselves helping clients and families through moments that matter, right? Things like an aging health event or caregiving, and really helping clients to plan for these moments before there's a crisis so that you can have more options, make better decisions, and be able to have peace of mind. And the goal here is really to help families before there's a crisis. So when these moments do arrive, you're actually ready. So Jason, let's go talk right now about senior living, right? And so whether you're thinking about senior living for yourselves or your aging parents, there are a few key principles I want everyone to keep in mind. The first thing is it's important to have these conversations early. I really can't stress this enough, but you don't want to wait until there's an emergency or a health crisis. We always say that it's better to be 2 years too early than 2 minutes too late. And the earlier you start to have these discussions and start talking about preferences and exploring options, the better it's going to be. The second thing is it's really important to give yourself multiple options. Remember, you don't want to fall in love with just one community. And here's something that a lot of people don't realize is that most quality senior living communities actually have wait lists several years long. And so even if you're not ready to move tomorrow, right, it's really important to get on a wait list for a community that you like, because that's actually going to give you flexibility down the road. Jason, let's go ahead and talk about sort of levels of care out there. And there's a lot of options available, from in-home care all the way down to skilled nursing facilities. But today, I really want to talk about sort of the 4 types that I think deserve the most considerations when you're thinking about senior living. So the first one is assisted living, right? It's for people who need some type of help with daily activities like bathing or dressing or medication management. But at this point, you don't necessarily require 24/7 medical care. Kind of think of it as having your own apartment, right, with services that are available when you need them. The next level is skilled nursing, right? This provides around-the-clock medical care, and it's typically for people who have serious health conditions, or maybe if you are recovering from a surgery or an illness. This is what many people think of as a nursing home. Then you have memory care, which is a specialized for people with Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia. And these communities have really secure environments and staff that are trained specifically for memory-related challenges. And finally, you have a mouthful, which is CCRCs, or continuing care retirement communities. Jason, try to say that 3 times fast, please. It's like having a whole continuum, right, of care on one campus. So you might start in independent living and then move to assisted living, and eventually you may end up in skilled nursing if needed, but you don't have to leave the community. So it's much more convenient. Jason, let's go ahead and talk about timing, because I know there's a lot of questions that people have about when is the right time. It really comes down to, looking for the signs to watch for, right? Things like feeling more isolated and lonely. Maybe you're having difficulty with mobility, like walking or climbing stairs. Also, when you notice that household chores are becoming more difficult to manage, or when you're seeing that your overall health is declining, those are all times or the opportunities for you to notice. But that's the key word here, notice, right? We know that these changes happen really, really gradually. So it's important to pay attention, and it's really important to be honest with yourselves, right? Be honest with yourself about what you're observing, and that's going to help you to figure out the right time. Jason, let's talk a little bit about, how to evaluate communities here. Um, when you're thinking about senior living and you're beginning to visit senior living communities, here are a couple of things. Let's go back to the previous slide, if you don't mind. A couple of things to pay attention to. Things like, how do staff members interact with residents? Are they warm and respectful? Maybe you should be looking at the recent safety inspection reports, because in many cases, these are public record, right? You can get access to these. Talk about financial transparency. You really want to understand exactly, right, what's included in those monthly fees. You want to understand what, if any, extra costs are going to be added in. And finally, right, ask yourself, like, does this place feel like like a place where you would want your loved ones to be? Do they feel happy? Do they feel comfortable here? I know, Jason, right, your team, right, we're always focused on cost. So let's talk a little bit about cost and kind of what those look like. It's really hard in many cases because there is so much variation based on location and based on levels of care. But regardless of what community or type of community you choose, you really need to watch out for those extra costs, right? Because those extra costs can absolutely add up quickly. And sometimes paying a bit more upfront will actually save you money over the long term, because there's a lot of those sort of extras that are built in. Jason, I just want to spend the last 2 minutes now talking about conversations with aging parents and talk a little bit about some free resources that we can give your clients. As your parents begin to get older and as you begin to notice those changes, it's important to start having conversations with aging parents. The key here is to be proactive, right? And identifying the right moments when your parents are most receptive to having these discussions. So maybe it's after a minor health scare that serves as a wake-up call. You can look for sort of natural openings in conversations rather than forcing the topic, right? Parents will tend to be more receptive during those moments. And Jason, let's talk a little bit about some common aging concerns that we see out there. And especially for those clients in the sandwich generation, there are a number of concerns, right, that you may want to look out for to start to kind of mention these with your aging parents. Things like, if your parents are having a hard time managing chronic health conditions like diabetes or arthritis, if you see changes in memory or cognition, or you're noticing some concerns about sort of their health care or financial security, like Todd mentioned earlier. And when your parents may start to bring up these topics, or when you notice them struggling with these issues, it's a perfect opportunity to lean in, right? Lean into these conversations. Ask questions like, what kind of support would be most helpful? Or, have you thought about what options might make these challenges easier? These types of moments, right, are really golden opportunities for you to explore ways to better support better support your patient or your parents, right? And to really discuss what preferences may look like over time.
And Parker, I love the offer that you're giving everyone that's joining here today.
Absolutely. Jason, I
So
know
we'll go right to
this
this.
is a surprise, right? I didn't tell you about this earlier, but I really want to talk to everyone about a free 30-minute care coaching call, right? This is a perfect opportunity for you to have one-on-one conversations with Maria, who's our senior care navigator. Maria has over 10 years of experience, a master's of public health. She can help you to understand levels of care, how to evaluate communities. She can guide you through how to have conversations with your aging parents, after maybe they had a newly diagnosed health condition. So all you need to do, right, is to send an email to hello@joincareally.com. We'll send you a link to schedule a free session, no strings attached. And Jason, thanks again for the opportunity to talk today to your clients.
Oh, we're excited, and please hang on as well because we got some really good questions that came your way. And Todd, we already got some questions your way as well. But I got to turn it over to Drew Fall, my friend, but also fellow Rotarian who works at HomeRN, overseeing the Charleston operations. She sent me over this deck. I'm going to turn it over to you, Drew and Kendra, because I love like what you guys put together so that we can have a good, robust conversation.
Thanks so much, Jason. Good morning or afternoon, rather, everybody. If that doesn't speak to how our day has gone, I don't know what does. But my name is Kendra Watson, and this is Drew Faw. We are with HomeRN. HomeRN is a concierge private pay home health company that provides compassionate care that is meticulously tailored to every family's needs. And we're excited to tell you all about how our services can support you and your clients and when those care decisions arise. I'll have you stay on this slide, Jason, right here. HomeRN was developed in 2021 in the smack middle of COVID by Eliza Maxwell, who is a nurse practitioner from Mountain Brook, Alabama. Eliza saw firsthand the gaps that families face when trying to arrange care, particularly when time is limited and the care situation is urgent. And so, medical care is often entirely unfamiliar territory for clients and their families. And so Eliza, in that process, she identified a common occurrence that not only is it difficult, but sometimes clients would require numerous companies at one time to cover caregiving and nursing. And so HomeRN was created to blend skilled nursing with professional caregiving. And then along came the fact that we offer IV services and urgent care all in the place where it matters most, which is at home. Jason, go ahead to the next slide.
I'll say, with my clients, when they don't feel well, they don't want to be somewhere. They want to be at home and get care there.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And on that note, I will clarify as well, obviously our theme today is more centered around our older friends, but in reality, we serve patients of all ages. So our IV and urgent care can be accessible for ages 16 and up. And then our skilled nursing and caregiving services, our youngest client ever was roughly 5 days old. And so we really serve a huge range of clients. And so on that note, Eliza, in figuring out what to do with HomeRN and how to serve her community, she identified a specific need in an industry that is rapidly growing, and in fact growing so much faster than any of us, even anticipated when we first started. So by the year 2030, 1 in 5 Americans will be over the age of 65. And so with that comes the fact that millions of adult children are going to be faced with making care decisions for their parents. And as a result, services like HomeRN are already becoming not just helpful, but essential to these families, especially in the case of not doing the preparation and the exploration and knowing what to do and who to do it with next. HomeRN is here to offer families peace of mind and practical support when it matters most. And so, Jason, we can go on to what type of categories that we provide care in. So our care offerings span across 4 key areas. We have caregiving, nursing, in-home IV therapy, and in-home urgent care. HomeRN services, notably caregiving, they include everything from as-needed help with daily routines to wound care, medication management, and then, of course, IV fluids, rapid strep and flu tests, anything you can think of. The bread and butter of HomeRN and our primary function is, of course, the caregiving service. And like I said, it can be some of our clients, call us once a month when they need to go to the doctor, or they just, play it by ear each week. But we are available and structured to provide up to 24/7 care if that is what is needed. We tailor care plans that are created by registered nurses at that intake visit that we do with each client. And we will include everything that anybody needs to know about that individual: medications, medical history, ambulation instructions, even down to how a client may like his or her coffee. If it is pertinent to the highest quality care that we can provide, it is in writing and accessible on an app, actually, that the caregivers and nurses have quick access to on their phones. In addition to that, all of this training is provided from the registered nurses to the caregivers individually, one-on-one, at the bedside of the client. So they'll walk through the house, they will look and make sure that everyone knows where they're going, how to use the shower chair that may be set up in the shower, those very personalized details that are harder to convey over the phone or over a text message. We make sure that everything is clarified in person first. And you can go ahead to the next slide. So Parker touched on this a little bit earlier, but care does not necessarily start at home. And so, our team is designed to go wherever care is needed. Sometimes that starts in a hospital room because a family doesn't have the ability to sit with their loved one while they're at work. We can start at rehab centers, senior living facilities, you name it, we can be there. And so whether someone's coming home from surgery, managing a chronic illness, or they need extra support in a facility, we can be there. And our registered nurses can also help identify, locate, and order any additional medical equipment so that we can make sure wherever the client is, the highest level of client safety is being provided as well. So HomeRN, currently, we are about to turn 5 years old. We currently serve communities throughout Alabama, Tennessee, and South Carolina. So we're in cities like Birmingham, Charleston, Franklin, and Nashville. And every location is built on deep local relationships with physicians, facilities, and family members as well.
And I want to speak because we have clients in 41 states. And if you don't live in one of the states, don't think I don't know someone. You got to let me know, and I can connect you with the local resource.
Yes.
I'll turn it back to y'all because
that.
you guys are slaying it. You're crushing it.
Thank you. We're glad you said that too, because we'll mention another colleague of ours that we reach out to too in areas that we don't cover, and we'll be sure to mention that here in a minute. So down to the nitty-gritty, it goes without saying, coordinating care is not easy. And, Jason, I know you're aware, you've worked plenty with Drew and figuring out the tiniest little logistics all the way up to, the big picture of what care looks like for a client. Oftentimes private wealth managers are the first to hear about a client's sudden health need. We work with plenty of families who may not have any family members left. That client relies on an individual who is coordinating all of their care, from a very business perspective. Sometimes our clients have families that are 10 family members deep who want to be involved with the process. And so, we're flexible. And obviously our goal is to make care easy as possible. There are a couple of roadblocks that tend to make care complicated. Obviously, it can come up here and now with no warning. It is not an uncommon occurrence in any of our markets for us to get a phone call that starts with, "By the way, I need someone at my house tonight. Can you make it happen?" No way to anticipate stuff like that. In terms of complexity and logistical needs, that is why HomeRN is structured to be run and managed by registered nurses. We also have nurse practitioners on staff who are overseeing care plans. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in case a family member, a client, one of our caregivers has a question that they need clarified right here, right now, even if that's 2 a.m. Of course, figuring out other trusted local resources is difficult as well. And so, one of our functions at HomeRN is to help guide you through, you may need PT, OT, speech, all those other components of care. And while we would love to offer those, of course, sometimes we have to bring in extra hands. And so we can help families identify who the best fit is for them. And like I said earlier, if there's other family members involved, we take care of all of the communication between a client's doctor, any other medical team members, and any desired family members. We are proud members of a whole lot of group texts between lots of siblings, daughters, sons, you name it. We'll talk to everybody and make sure that they're updated in a timely manner. I wanted to include just a quick testimonial from one of our favorite families. He actually passed away back in March, but we took care of this individual who is shared, by the way, with permission from the family. We took care of him for a few years. So we grew with him from his house, checking in once or twice a week, all the way up to his move to a skilled nursing facility. And, we're incredibly fortunate that our company gives us the ability to develop these incredibly personalized and deep relationship with our patients and with their family members. And obviously, at the end of the day, our goal and our standard, I should say, is that every step of care for every client is implemented in a manner that we would expect and pray for our own families, if that's who was needing care. So to wrap up, I just, again, wanted to thank you all for having us here today. We are obviously here for you and your clients. We'll give y'all some information to pass out, Jason, to everybody in attendance today. But anytime you call any of our offices, those conversations are obviously free. We would love to chat with you about what your situation looks like, chat with you about what a client's needs may be, give suggestions, and then, we can walk you through the next steps to coordinating care for whoever it may be that needs it as well.
And I saw my screen share because right now I just really want to open up to the Q&A that we received, right? Really great engaging questions from all three presenters. So thank you so much for joining in so that we could get these important questions answered.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the first one comes from my dear friend and client, Perry, goes, is Carefull fully being offered as a no-cost benefit from Prime Capital? Perry, great question. The answer is no. It's being fully offered by my clients because I paid out of my own personal money, so all my clients could get access to Carefull with no out-of-pocket cost. What we did, Perry, is, and everyone else, right, is we did a pilot. I just wanted to test it out, and I was also part of the test group, right, Todd? And I called Todd because I got an alert on a spam on this text that I was getting. So I copied and pasted it, put it into the spam check, and it was so cool. It was like, no, even though I went to Florida, they're like, this is likely to be suspicious. Do not click on any links, right?
Wow.
And okay, I'm in the industry, right? And I could be easily fooled, but I knew enough to then put it into the spam check right there at Carefull, and I was able to make sure that I didn't make that mistake. So seeing that value that I received, and along with the test group, the pilot group, we're rolling out to everyone. So we're looking at getting the email out to all of our clients. All you have to do is register, and you can make the most of it by linking up your bank accounts, going through. I mean, I uploaded my passports, my driver's license. I wanted it all protected as much as I could possibly get. So ring an endorsement there, Todd. I hope that puts a smile on your face. Right.
Well, I was going to say, if your current gig doesn't work out, I'm always hiring. Be careful.
I think
that's a great point,
so
though.
mad at me.
I get in trouble with my wife all the time, but that's a great point, Jason. I mean, it's the wealth folks out there that start a relationship with Carefull. It truly is because they care about their clients. In most cases, it's not the big mothership. It's not the Edward Jones or the Cetera of the world, right? All the different wealth advisories that are out there. It's individual folks like Jason that actually care enough to offer this to their clients. I'll also add on, I'm in the industry and I've clicked on stuff before, right? Like the scammers are only getting better. And when you do onboard onto Carefull, you have the opportunity to give a free version of Carefull away to somebody you love. I encourage you to do that. I've got some really smart kids. I've got one that's a junior at UNC Chapel Hill Law School on a full ride scholarship. He's way smarter than me. And he clicked on one of the "Hey, is this you" links text the other day. And they got a Venmo payment out of it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You got to get careful in your life.
And I kind of answered another question that came in regarding Carefull there, Todd. It was just like, what information is needed to get this up and running? And you will see it. It's very self-explanatory. You go in and you could go as geeky as I did and go all in with everything, or you could enter in the information that you feel comfortable with. You are in a driver's seat with Carefull. I hope that answers that question. Another question that came in on Carefull. This is for all the clients. We have a client portal, and in the client portal we have is a vault, and the vault allows us to share information securely. Within Carefull, how is that different? Okay, well, first off, like, yes, you could use their vault as well, more for like sharing that information with next of kin and things of that nature. Same thing with the vault, so same there. But I'm not going to offer $1 million credit protection like Todd does. Okay, you got to go through Carefull to get that. Okay, and I don't. And like, great question that came in, right? But like, as well as you see, Carefull will give you alerts when things are happening. Now, when you link your bank accounts to us, we're not monitoring those transactions as your financial professional, let alone like sending you alert if your debit card's being used 9 miles away from where you live, right? But that's what Carefull does. So great questions from my clients on that. There was a question that came in through CareAlly. CareAlly, like, so what it sounds like is you're helping family members, either the people who are getting the care or a family member of that's going to get the care, to have these conversations. But once you identify like that need is met, how do you then get them in touch with the people in their area to then get that service provided, Parker?
Yeah, it's a great question. So when it comes to sort of evaluating and making independent senior living recommendations, it's really important for those recommendations to be unbiased. There's a lot of senior placement agencies that get referral fees, and we feel that having unbiased recommendations provides a real fiduciary approach to your clients. And so we actually take a really deep approach where we're understanding, not only the cost and location and amenities, but we're actually calling the communities and the independent living, facilities, right? We're checking on the background checks, right? We are seeing if there's any sort of citations or violations at the state level, right? So there's a lot of things that we can do to make sure that we can help the clients to be able to make better decisions and to have more options. And so typically we're able to give 2 or 3 vetted recommendations for senior living communities. And now the clients can tour them themselves, get on the wait list so that when the time is right, they're able to, get into the level of care that they need. And we do the same thing for in-home care. And in fact, we've actually worked with Kendra and her team, where we did a comprehensive evaluation in Nashville. They came out as the provider for the client that we recommended, and the client has had a great experience so far. So we definitely can do really deep vetting and recommendations all across the country.
The question that I also got from HomeRN, I'm going to read this directly. Excellent presentation from HomeRN. Excellent. Is this available in mid-Atlantic states?
That is a great question. The answer is not yet. However, there are a few locations in the pipeline. I would specify which, but I'm afraid I will jinx it. I want everything to work out. However, we are looking to grow, of course. We're only 4.5 years old. And so, knock on wood, with any luck, we will be hopefully revisiting this town hall webinar this time next year with a broader list of places that we can help you and your clients.
Now, I'm gonna kind of kick it over that question to Parker as well, right? So like CareAlly, you're working with the people across the country. So if they need that at-home service, because I already know that you and HomeRN already got connected in Tennessee, which was amazing, right? But Mid-Atlantic states, you have resources there, Parker?
Yeah, I mean, for every client that comes to us with a specific need, we actually do sort of a bespoke search, right? So, because every client needs different services, they have different budgets, right? They have different medical necessity, and so we actually will look at the either the home care or the senior living communities in each local area, and we will do sort of a competitive report where we'll list out the recommendations, and we'll follow our process, right, to make sure that we're able to identify the providers or the communities that best match the needs of these individual clients. So it's a new search every single time, which really means that your clients get access to completely unbiased recommendations that are tailored for them.
I wanted to say thank you to Todd, Parker, Drew, Kendra. Like, thank you so much for the work that you're already doing for our clients here. But also thank you for doing the work that you're doing within a community. All of you are doing something that is deeply needed. And I just want to thank you for your time, your knowledge, your wisdom, your experiences, and ultimately your partnership. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Now we're going to get to the fun part of the big, beautiful bill and investing. Oh my gosh. And let me introduce you to the new presenters. You can see, right, we like to work as a team, right? How can one person know all things about all things? If I wanted to know that, I would just ask my wife, Rachel, but we'll move on. We have Katie Randall, who is also a partner here at Prime Capital. And we have Samantha Ballard. For those that worked at Boeing, you might know Samantha. She joined us recently to be our strategic operations and planning coordinator, but she has a background with tax analysis as well. So what a great opportunity to get Samantha's experience. And, you know, so this bill just came off the presses. I want to say 900 pages, right? So we're still pouring through it, but it includes many significant provisions, and it permanently extends the key elements of previous tax legislation that came out, increased deductions for state and local taxes, also known as SALT, and in particularly reduce. I know I'm stuttering a little bit because it's like so much like we could really cover, and how it's going to be affecting like healthcare programs like Medicaid. Tax laws directly affect many areas of financial planning. Now, many of you I've been working with you as the Tax Cut and Job Act came out, and then now this is coming out, right? So we've been through this conversation before, but we really got to dive in deep into what's going on here over the next really like 25 to 30 minutes. Now, we do have a gift for everyone who's going to stay on all the way to the end, okay? So I'll tell you how you could get that gift, but you got to hang with us for a little bit as Katie and Samantha are going to drop some knowledge on y'all when it comes to the big, beautiful bill. Katie, I'm going to turn it over to you first to get us started.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jason. First, let's talk about the income tax rates that we're under now. So really like the centerpiece of the new legislation was making permanent the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which was in 2017. So that's really noteworthy because we've been a little uncertain about when those rates might expire. And now we have more certainty, which us financial planners love. So for at least the time being, you can see that today's tax rates are still at these like historically low levels. So this chart kind of paints that for us. And so, you know, some are saying that we will eventually need to have higher tax rates because of our budget deficit, at least for now. This bill is saying that we will stay with lower income tax rates for the near term. And there's some other key changes worth noting. Jason kind of touched on them, but we know now that our standard deduction for individuals has been increased. And there's this new deduction for qualifying seniors that's been added in. And I know Samantha has some more detail on that for us as well. Our child tax credit was expanded. So it's now $2,200 per child. And we have this new cap on our SALT tax deduction. So a few years back, we had that SALT deduction be capped at $10,000. And now that state and local tax deduction is capped at a higher amount of $40,000. There's also some new deductions for tip income, which might help those in the service industry. And on the flip side, the bill eliminates some green energy credits. And so for people buying electric vehicles, that has been eliminated. So with that overview, let's move into another important part of planning, which is our estate tax exemptions. So you will see on this slide, these bars year by year show us our federal level estate tax exemptions. This is like how much money can pass to the next generation free of federal estate tax. The exemption amount under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017, it doubled at that time. So you can see that bar in 2017 went up to 2x essentially. And that higher exemption amount was set to expire. So us as planners were keeping an eye on that to say, hey, are we going to revert back to the old amounts? It has actually been made permanent now that it's set at a higher amount. So at this point, there's actually a very small number of families that are going to be affected by that higher exemption amount. But in our minds, estate planning is still really important for every family. So even though we have that higher exemption amount, we know it's about more than just taxes when we're talking about estate planning. It's about making sure your assets are passing the way that you want, that your plan is reflecting your values. And that really takes like a lot of different pieces coming together holistically. It's estate planning, it's tax strategy, it's philanthropy, it's your family, like multi-generational family wealth preservation. And so that's always going to be at the front of our minds when we're working with you on your estate planning. And with that in mind, I'm going to hand it over to Jason, and he's going to talk about where our tax revenue actually comes from.
Thank you, Katie. And look at this chart. I mean, I can let just soak in for a moment. The tax policy and government deficits are fundamentally linked. Since the tax cuts reduce the government revenues, the shortfall must be addressed through either reducing spending or increasing borrowing. However, most government spending is difficult to change since it involves important programs like Social Security, Medicare, and national defense. Given these constraints, government borrowing has increased persistently over the past century and show little signs of reversing. The Congressional Budget Office, my favorite office, right? They came out with estimates showing that the new tax and spending bill will add $3.4 trillion. I said this when we started the town hall. I remember, I mean, we're doing this for over 2 decades. I remember when I started, we used to talk about things in billions and we used to like clutch our pearls. Like now we're doing trillions and like no one's even batting an eye. I don't get it. But this is the national debt over the next decade. Now I'm going to get into some of my own opinion, but I'm going to always say this. Money is green, it's not blue, and it's not red. Okay, so if I come off like I'm looking at it from one perspective, no, I'm just sharing my personal opinion on this. If it's $3.4 trillion in national deficit because of these tax cuts, look at the individuals coming in at 49%. That's okay. So what does that mean? Is what we get to keep half of that 3.4 trillion? When I say we, I'm talking like W-2 employees, maybe 1099s, right? Things of that nature. Retirees. That's more money in your pocket, less going to Uncle Sam. I think that's a good thing. And I also think my clients are better stewards if they want to do charitable donations, or if they want to do a charitable donation to Uncle Sam, they could do that, I guess. Right, write a charitable donation to the U.S. Treasury Department. That's on your prerogative. But like, what about charities or nonprofits that maybe you could donate that money to because you saved it, right? That's the way I kind of look at it from that perspective. The other thing that's striking to me here, 9.4 from corporations. Now, you know, we work with small business owners. We work with mid-sized market businesses. I'm going to tell you, they're paying their fair share in taxes and then some. Now, but when I see 9.4, the first thing I think of is like, what's going on with these large organizations that have armies full of lawyers and accountants to try to squeeze as much as they can from the tax. I think that needs to be addressed, and I hope it does, right? Because I think tariffs can only go so far. Again, money is green, it's not blue, and it's not red. And what I just went into is just my personal opinion. But here's the data, here's the chart showing what does that look like, right? And so then you see like it's followed by payroll taxes, which pay for programs like Social Security, right? So then I go into, okay, what does this look like when we have uncertainty in the political spectrum? How does that eke in to not just the market, but financial planning? This is a big chart, right? There's a lot of beautiful colors going on there. Economic policy uncertainty. The new bill signed into law on July 4th represents significant financial policy changes that could influence both the economy and financial markets in so many different ways. With important changes, Samantha's going to go over this in a moment. These could boost consumer spending power and economic growth by putting more money into the household pocket, right? Don't forget about that 3.4 trillion that I was just kind of going into. And also that SALT deduction cap from 10,000 to 40,000, along with new tip income deduction. And there's even this like really cool thing with if you're over 65, you could get even more money from a standard deduction. Pretty cool stuff. I'm not going to steal your thunder, Samantha, but what I'm getting into is this right here, this uncertainty. This chart goes into when there's economic policy uncertainty, shows how that policy changes and legislative development can create market volatility. Now, through markets often stabilize when there's greater clarity about the direction of those government policies. While short-term policy changes can create more market movement, successful long-term investing, having that long-term focus on the economy's underlying fundamentals and the power of compounding growth over time, rather than trying to time political cycles, okay? And you can see that through the chart with all the volatility that's coming through. I'm still waiting for some questions, okay? So keep those questions coming. But we're going to turn it over the star of the show, going into important tax updates with the Samantha ballot.
Thanks, Jason. So star of the show, week 3 here at Prime Capital. So that's always fun. So I am the strategic operations and planning coordinator, but I come from 10 years of doing personal taxes and an accounting background. So we are going to go through some of the big important changes that kind of came from the big beautiful bill. Some of these you might have heard of, some might be new to you. Some we're kind of just going to clarify with what Jason and Katie already touched on. So our permanent updates, these were set to expire at 2025 as our individual tax rates and standard deductions, but they were under Trump's previous administration, and so those have been extended. Child tax credit, like we mentioned, it's been increased from $2,000 to $2,200. As someone with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, I'm a little excited about that nice little boost. And then the estate gift tax, that was from $5 million to $15 million. So just like Katie said, it's more money that gets to be passed down versus in Uncle Sam's pocket. Then the temporary deductions. So these are effective right now from 2025 to 2028, as long as nothing else happens or changes. So no tax on qualified tips. That is up to $12,500 for single, 30 or 25,000 for joint. There are phases out for these and the overtime. Those are 150 single and 300 married filing jointly. And then same thing for overtime. It's up to 2,500 single, 25,000 joint. Excuse me. Tips was 25,000 total. Overtime is 12,500 single, 25 joint. And then those specifically, the overtime portion, it's just what is above your normal working wage versus it's kind of like that half of time and a half. So it's not going to be like your normal wage, but anything that is considered overtime pay would be excluded up to those specific filing pieces. Then the senior bonus deduction. So this is for 65 and older. This was a big piece. It was in lieu of no tax on Social Security. So that part did not pass, but this was to help offset that. So it's for 65 and older. It's a standard deduction addition of $6,000 per individual. So if both of the clients are over 65, then it'd be $12,000. This does phase out after 75,000 up to 175,000. And then that's for single, married filing jointly, 150 up to 250. So there could be potential for us to go and look at tax strategies on how we could benefit and get that $6,000. And that's something we would look at here down the road. And then car loan interest. So this is specifically for domestically produced cars. You can look up your VIN number, or the IRS has a website that you should be able to check out the information label on. And this is a $10,000 deduction. You do not have to itemize to get this deduction, but it is only for cars purchased in 2025, or essentially a loan signed after December 31st, 2024. So that is one piece to be aware of, and it has to be a personal vehicle. It cannot be a business vehicle. And then if you do refinance that loan later, then you could still potentially be eligible for those same car loan deductions. So that's kind of a nice piece if you happen to be in the looks or in the shopping for a new car. So then changes to itemized deductions. So as kind of mentioned already, the SALT deduction cap that went from 10,000 to 40,000, that's a huge change. And then that goes up until 2029. So that is very, very nice. It does go and revert back to 10,000 in 2020 or 2030, but 2020 is tax year. And then charitable deductions. So we kind of mentioned already, if you don't itemize, you can do $1,000 for single and then $2,000 for married filing jointly. We had that back in the tax years of 2023. It dropped in 2024, but now it is back again. So that is a nice little piece. If you do itemize, then there's up to 0.5% of your AGI, or adjusted gross income, that you can go and deduct. So that's a really nice piece that they're bringing back for the different charitable contributions. Then other notes to mention, Katie kind of touched on, like our clean energy vehicle credit that is going away. So if you are wanting to take advantage of that credit, you have till September 30th of this year to go and purchase a clean energy credit vehicle, and you can actually still get that credit as long as you purchase the vehicle before September 30th. There are some wind and solar credit cuts that are happening as well. Medicaid, there's more work requirements and then more eligibility requirements to stay on Medicaid. So that is like the high level overview of the tax cuts and tax benefits that are coming here within the big, beautiful bill. So Jason, if there's anything else you want to add on that piece, please fill us in. And I know we have time for Q&A, and then definitely tell us about that special offer. And then we also have disclosures to cover. So take it away.
Well, let's start with the fun page first. This is the lawyer's page right here. Everything we discussed is for information, educational purposes. There it is. You have it. Okay, take screenshots. I'm going to stop my screen share for a moment and answer some Q&A, and then I'll get right into the offer, the gift that we're going to be providing for everyone that hung out with us. Okay, so one of the questions that came in, I think Katie, looks like you put a nice comment there. Should I start giving my nephew and niece money in advance, the big beautiful birthday and Christmas gift? The question that came in. I'm going to turn that to Katie and Samantha, and if I think I could add any color, I will.
Sure. Thanks for this question, Louis. We fully encourage you to do that. You know, a lot of my clients, and I'm sure Jason's too, we've seen more of a focus on when it comes to like transferring our wealth. I think there's more of a shift happening of like, I'd love to help my kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews sooner than later. And so that's a great way to do it through annual gifting, through the gift tax exclusion. And that amount for this year is $19,000 that you can give. So if you're feeling very generous to your nephew and niece, you know, you can give them $9,500 or something like that for every birthday and Christmas gift. And it's basically the amount that we can gift to any one person without having to file a gift tax return. And it's just a really easy way to start transferring money from our estate to the next generation. And so that's been something that we've been helping more and more clients with over the years.
Yeah, and it's going to be a case-by-case situation, right? Like we could answer that question to every single person that's on in this town hall with us. And You may think if you sat in our office as we met 6 people today, that we just contradict ourselves all day. It's no, we have to customize our guidance specifically to your goals, your fears, your concerns, your aspirations. It's everything else in between, right? Now, we don't want the tax tail to wag the investment dog, but we're doing this town hall. We were preparing to talk about economic forecasting for the back part of the year. And this bill came out, I was like, no, we got to pivot. We got to pivot, and we got to talk through some of these important changes. It was a really good question that also came in. What are the stipulations for the charitable contribution deduction, whether one itemizes or not? Samantha, like they're just having fun with you right now.
I was gonna say, so for those who don't know, Perry is my old senior manager, and he usually would ask questions he already knew the answer to, but just for information, so the stipulations pretty much are same thing that they've been in the past. They have to be qualified organizations with under the IRS, and the IRS has a website. They list like their different recognized charities. Good documentation of records. Anything over 250 in cash has to have like a receipt or an acknowledgement from the organization. Anything that's like fair market value for cat or for like clothing or things you've donated, you just have to go and make sure you have documentation of like what your basis is in that, and then what it was donated at its fair market value.
Hey, I got this other question that came in. This is a good one. It is regarding, should I be doing something with this thing called Trump accounts? Okay, for those that don't know, if you had a child this year, you go open up a Trump account. I'm just saying what that's called right now. I think they got to come up with a name, but you get $1,000 put into that account by the government. Take the money. I'll tell you that 100% time. Take the money. Now, how does this play out for children that are under the age of 18 but not born this year? And there's this whole conversation right now within our team meetings about 529s versus Trump account. Well, I think be my witness here, Katie and Samantha. It's $5,000 max annual contribution into the Trump account. Is that right? Okay, so 5,000 versus a 529. It's I want 130,000 or something like that. Okay, if you have that problem, definitely talk to us, right? If that's what you're going to put 130,000 into, and like it's 130,000 spread out over 5 years, so it's just different funding levels, and like 529 is really through educational costs. The Trump account can be used for money that's not for education. It could be used for a lot of different things, but at age 18, the money converts to a Roth IRA for the benefit of the child. It becomes their Roth IRA. So think about what that could mean for long-term savings and compounding since birth through 59 and a half before they could touch the growth of that, right? Now they could always touch the contributions, but not the growth until 59 and a half. Until new laws come out. We'll talk about that then in another town hall. It'll be like, welcome to the Q3 2045 town hall. A lot of gray on the beard then. So you got to understand, like, I could tell you what the laws are now, what they could be headed towards, but it's anybody's guess, especially with, how politicians could change things as time moves on. But did I cover the Trump account, Samantha and Katie? Do you feel like you want to add anything to that question?
There was a question adjacent to this that says, does the Trump account apply to the adoption of newborns? I believe it does, but I would love to confirm that and get back to you. Maybe that's something we can include in our follow-up.
It's a great question from an anonymous person. So like, we will know to reach out, but like, do this. If you send that question to team CHS at primefinancial.com, we will be able to get information and get that back to you so you can make an informed decision. Okay. Now, other questions are coming in. Thank you so much, Katie, to send that. Let me go ahead and put that in the chat for everyone to see. All right, you guys ready for the special offer? I think they're ready. Keep the questions coming in case we didn't cover everything. So this is a taxation guide for withdrawals and income sources. Now, for those that are over the age of 65, right, to get that $6,000 pop, it's going to be based off of your AGI, your MAGI. So if you look here, you can see which withdrawals, which kind of interest or gains impacts your AGI sensitivity. Interesting stuff, right? Roth accounts. What is non-qualified? Well, we can answer that question in a one-on-one, right? Traditional retirement account, you hit your MAGI, right? Non-qualified withdrawals from a non-qualified annuities. How does that hit it? You see, it's 2 pages of pure joy, right? But information that's important. It's taking the complicated and making it simplified. So all you have to do is email Team CHS and say, I want that guide, and we'll send it out to you. You got it, okay? The other thing I was going to share is for all of our clients, those who are already working with us on an ongoing basis, upload your 2024 tax return in your Vault. The client portal, log into your client portal, go to Vault, go to Share Documents, and upload your 2024. Just let us know when you do that. And what Samantha and Katie are going to do is start to run an advanced tax analysis for the calendar year of 2025 with the new tax code laws and the new adjustments with SALTs and itemized deductions and all that other fun stuff, right? So I would just, that was a good comment, Perry, but upload it, let us know, and we can run a full-fledged tax report for 2025 to give you an idea of where you're headed if we don't make any adjustments. Now, this will also, as your team of financial advisors, it would also go, hey, maybe we need to start withdrawing money from this other account that's not going to drive up your MAGI, so you and your spouse could get $12,000, or for you to get an extra $6,000 on the standard deduction, right? Isn't that just the way to think about it, right? Be proactive, allow us to be proactive so that you can make better informed financial decisions. That's what we're here to do. Looks like we have a couple more questions coming in. Okay, the more of a comment, that's a personal stuff. We're not going to get into that with everyone. Samantha,
Jason,
you're getting like praise reviews. They're like, thank you, Samantha. Thank you. Right. I see that with Katie. Right.
that's
Sean
my
was the
Boeing
star
love
of the
there.
show. Sean was
Jason,
like crushing it all day, making this go smooth.
Hey, Jason, I did confirm that newborn adoptions are considered eligible for the Trump account. So I did answer that question online in the chat, but just a heads up for anyone there, newborn adoptions for babies born after January 1st, 2025 up until December 31st, 2028 are eligible for those Trump accounts and the $1,000 contribution.
I love it. I love it. I'm going to launch a survey. This is feedback. Okay. This feedback, this questionnaire, 5 questions. It's just 1 question, right? 5 questions. How would you rate the overall? Please do us a favor. Give us this feedback. Okay. We want to make this as engaging and as informative as possible to celebrate our clients and to celebrate those who joined us today as the first time they ever had a chance to meet us. This is the work that we do and the work that we love. So as we wrap up, go ahead and send any other questions. Thank you so much for doing the feedback. Katie, thank you so much for taking time out of your day away from your clients and your family. We so appreciate the partnership that we're building. Samantha, already adding value to the team. Look at that. I mean, you just started 3 weeks in, dropping knowledge on the new tax bill, learning. I mean, for those that don't know, Samantha, she read 900 pages worth of tax code law.
Oh, I did not.
But could you imagine, right? Hey, Samantha, welcome to the team. Here's 900 pages. I need you to read this and prepare for a town hall that we're going to do. Oh, that would be
Gary
crazy.
Morse going, do I have an opportunity for you?
You can see we like to have fun because we deal with important stuff. Just because we have a smile on our face doesn't mean we don't take it serious. But if you don't have fun at work, then don't go to work, right? Like, have fun. Have your foot on the gas. not the break as you get into work. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. You're going to have that poll to still answer those questions, even though we drop off. Have a good rest of your day. Email Team CHS at Prime Financial for us to do a tax analysis along with send you out this withdrawal and income sources. You're going to need this because it will help you make better informed decisions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.